I was like, I feel like I have to poop again, but it felt like a different kind. And I was like, wait, I should see what's going on. And
Yeah.
so I realized there's a head.
Oh my gosh. Hi, Marissa. Thank you so much for joining us today. I cannot wait to hear this incredible birth story.
Yeah, so I originally am from Pennsylvania, Lancaster County, and recently moved all the way to California
Oh my
to do
gosh.
full-time missions work with my
Nice.
husband. And the reason we did natural more so was because of my husband. He's always been more naturally minded than I have. And so he had encouraged me, hey, we should try to do this natural. Like we should go more of that route. And I was like,
Hmm.
what? Epidurals, like the idea of it and the huge needle, I've seen them done. I did not want that done for me. And I had a Facebook ad pop up about your course, one of the free master classes. And so we hopped on one of those and we were like, okay, we want to do this.
Nice. Oh my gosh, that's so awesome to hear. And that's really cool because you don't hear that often that it was the partner that was kind of encouraging it. Usually it's the mama who's like, honey, we're going to do this. And then, they go along with it. So kudos to your husband. I love that. But good for you because sometimes it becomes a little bit of a power struggle. So that the fact that you're open to it, and then, I love that synchronicity. It's like, oh, I just happened to be on Facebook and here's this ad and I'm going to watch this. And then before you know it, you're like, here we are. So, and it sounds like you were really designed to give birth, like majorly designed to give birth. We all are, but you really were blessed. So let's talk a little bit about your pregnancy before we get into your birth story. Was there anything that surprised you about pregnancy? Given it was your first time, or did you come up against any challenges?
I had a bicornuate uterus to start with, and then I also have conjoined kidneys on one side. And so automatically they were like, we don't really know what to do with your situation. And my
Yes.
first wasn't until past 20 weeks because for the first trimester, I had been in Uganda on a missions trip.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Like, what? You haven't had an appointment. You have this going on, that going on. And so they were, of course, like, okay, well, we need to figure out if your body is doing all right. And we were pretty sure it was because I'm pretty in touch and can tell. And they were like, oh, yeah, everything's doing okay. But it shocked me how fast they were to judge that I hadn't come in for an appointment.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And just how they can rank up that fear, like, oh my gosh, and it just gets you like, oh my gosh, I should be worried now too, even though you were like feeling great and going along and doing your thing. And yeah,
Yeah.
I hear you on that for sure. How did you end up was that the support team that you ended up working with, or did you find another group, or how did that work for you?
So we had gone back to Pennsylvania for a couple months because we were transitioning from into missions here in California. So we switched providers actually at like 34 weeks.
Oh my
So the
goodness.
freaking out were not the people we ended up delivering with. And the
Nice.
people delivering with were actually way more naturally minded, and their hospitals like pretty much anti C-section unless it's absolutely necessary, anti like induction unless it's absolutely necessary. And so
Wow.
I was thankful we ended up there and not at the original place we were at.
That is fantastic. That is wonderful to hear. And yes, I mean, I've had stories of moms at 38 weeks changing providers because they just felt like this is not going where I want it to go. Is it, ideal? No, but it definitely can make or break your birth because your support team is so critical. They really set the tone. They are your support system and they are going to help you be successful. Again, you're a first time mom. Did you have any fears or anything that was keeping you up at night around the actual birth event itself?
I think not knowing what the pain was going to be like was something that I was like, how am I going to do that? Like, I've had, I had really bad menstrual pains. And so I was like, if labor is worse than menstrual pains, like, I don't like that's terrible because I'd be
Yeah.
vomiting, passed out. Like, it was absolutely awful. And I was like, how am I going to do that if I can barely handle my menstrual cramps? But in the end, it ended
Yes.
up being manageable.
Okay. So you did have some fears. You were concerned about the intensity, the pain based on some of your past experiences. So that makes sense. Okay. So what were some of the things you did to prepare, physically, mentally, spiritually to was there anything you did to offset some of those fears?
Yeah, physically, I kept my job up until we moved to California, and I was a server, so I was always up and around.
Yes.
Um, Mentally, we did and I say we because my husband was amazing in all of this, and I don't think that I would have done most of this without him. He'd be like, okay, you got to read the Mama Natural cards. Like, you've got to read them, get your mindset in that. And he just encouraged me that I'd be able to do it. And I'm religious, and so I'd often pray about it. Be like,
Yes.
okay, I'm so scared of this, and like I need your strength in this. Um,
Amen.
yeah, it was huge, and just changing the mindset of I can do this. I was made to do this, and I have
Mhm.
support me in this as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good for you. So it sounds like you pulled all the levers, you supported yourself and, did what you could do to get that mindset right. Of course, there's some of it that just, we can't control, but doing some of those practice thoughts and behaviors do definitely help. Okay, so then as you get close to your big day, a lot of first time moms do not have Braxton Hicks. Did you have any like pre-contraction-y type feelings at all?
Not that I knew. I was
Yeah.
in front of once, and they were like, "Hey, you're having a Braxton Hicks contraction right now. Do you know that?" And I was like, "Nope." I couldn't even tell what's
Isn't
happening.
that so funny? I don't know what the deal is. Like, we just don't pick up on them. You just don't feel them that first time around. Yeah. Okay. So you did have some Braxton Hicks, which most of us do, but a lot of first time moms can't feel them. But how did you know? Like, bring us up to like your due date. Did you go before your due date, after? And how did you know? Okay. Oh my gosh, I'm really in labor.
Yeah. So he was born about 10 days early,
Okay.
and that day I had an appointment, and my blood pressure was high. So then they sent me over to do some monitoring because I was at risk with the kidneys for preeclampsia and things like that. And they ended up, yeah, so they did all the monitoring. At the end of the day, I was okay, but they were still worried about it. And they did a cervical exam, and they said, "Oh, you're actually 2 centimeters dilated, 70% effaced." And so, like, that's good, but you're a first time mom, so that could mean a couple more days of labor. It could mean a week. Like, you could stop. Like, we don't really know what to tell you. You're just ride it out. And um, they told me you're going to feel pretty crampy after the exam. And so I was like, okay. And I continued to feel crampy.
Hmm.
And I just was like, oh, this is just from the cervical exam, just from the cervical exam. And went to bed that night. I think the cervical exam was probably done around 8. And we did some shopping afterwards because we needed to get groceries. And then got home, probably went to bed 10, 11 o'clock. And I was like, yeah, how long are these cramps going to last? Like, they're just a nuisance. Like, I
Yeah.
just want to be done with. And so all night I was waking up about every 2 hours, and I was actually going poop every 2 hours. And I was like,
Oh,
oh,
yes.
something's happening. And I would sleep, just go back to sleep. And I think it was like 4:30. I woke up and I was like, oh, I think that this is a contraction. And so I woke my husband up, and I was like, I think things are really starting. And so we started timing it, and they weren't super long. They were kind of consistent. And we timed it for about 2 hours. And then I think at the 2 hour mark, they were about 5 minutes apart, lasting 45 ish seconds. And so I was like, maybe we should call the hospital. And so we called them, and they were speaking to me, and they said, You don't sound like you're that. You don't sound like you're that close. And we would hate for you to come in, and we have to send you home. So continue to labor at home. Call us in a little bit if, water breaks or something else. And about 5 minutes after that call, I was like, I feel like I have to poop again. But it felt like a different kind. And I was like, wait, I should see what's going on. And
Yeah.
so I realized there's a head.
Oh my gosh.
And
Wow.
no, no way. So I called my husband, and I was like, can you look if there's actually a head there? So
Yeah.
he, oh yeah, that's our baby's head.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So then we call
Wow.
them. They're like, well, see if you can. We're about 30 minutes out from our hospital because we live in like a remote area. And they were like, well, has your water broken or anything? Like, no. They're like, you might be able to still make it in. Come on in. So my husband's like, all right, let's get ready to go. And I was like, nope, I need to push. Like, this is
Yeah.
not happening. So I started to like bear down a little bit. My water um, popped, and then he called again. They're like, okay, you are going to have this baby at home and just call an ambulance to come then, because we
Oh
were
my
not at all
gosh.
to have a
Yeah.
baby, not our plan. And so he was on the phone trying to connect to the hospital because we use Wi-Fi calling. And then I'm like, well, where do I want to have this baby? Where do I want this mess to end up being? And so I was like, well, we have a bathtub. I should get in there. And so I filled up the bathtub and I got in there. My husband came in, and all the ambulance people had said was, listen to your body. And I was like, okay, like I was made to do this. I can do this. I just kept feeling the urges to bear down. I think I pushed a total of 5 times, and baby was out. And my husband had caught him and delivered him.
Oh my gosh. Unbelievable. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. So from start to finish, I mean, how long was that labor even? It's hard to know where to begin it though, because it could have been after the cervical check, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm not sure of.
Yeah.
So if I go from like that 8:30 time, he was born at like 6:44. So maybe there's that 10 hours
Yeah.
total from what I know. It took,
Right. But you kind of said like around 4:30 you felt that first contraction.
that's when I knew. I was like, oh, this isn't like a cramp. This is
Yeah.
a contraction of some sort.
Wow. Unbelievable. So you had a very surprising birth. How did your husband rise to the occasion? Was he getting into panic or was he pretty collected and was able to kind of show up to that role? And
Yeah, he was so calm. I I was amazed at him. He was just calm and he was excited. He was like,
yeah,
I mean, you can do this. Like, we've never done this together before or individually, but we can do it. And he's like, your body. Like, we watched the Mama Natural course. We can do it.
yeah.
And was there ready to catch the baby and had the biggest smile on his face once he was out and was just like, good job. Welcome to the world.
Wow. What was it? What did it feel like when you first held your baby?
I
Were you
think I was
just
shocked.
in shock? Absolutely. Yes. And then did you have to wait until the EMT, is that their abbreviations, came and did they cut the cord or how did that work?
Yeah, so we waited until they came because we didn't know anything about cutting the
Yeah.
cord, that. And it took them, I think he had been out for about 15 minutes until they had
Mhm.
gotten. And so we waited for them and they came, and it was surprising to me that they didn't exactly seem like they were confident in all of it,
Wow.
which, oh, and they were like, this is not often that this happens for us. Most
Wow.
they're either in labor or, we get you to the hospital. It's not usually that we come and the baby's already out. And the one guy said, is your midwife on the way? I was like, no, this was not this was
Yeah.
not planned here. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, but then they cut the cord, and then I walked out to the ambulance, which surprises me now because I'm like, how did I walk out of my house into the ambulance? And then, but with the placenta, they didn't really know. That was one thing that they just kind of let go. They were like, oh, like you might feel like you need to push it out. And so by the time we got to the hospital, I'd been in there for a while, because my body was just, I think, in shock at that point.
Totally. Yep.
So
Yep.
to like how to really help me.
Yes. I'm surprised they didn't give you a shot of Pitocin because that is common or it can happen when the labor is so fast. It's like the body has to catch up and the placenta can get stuck, because the body's just kind of reeling. So when you got to the hospital, because you don't obviously don't want to retain your placenta too long and stuff, did they give you a shot of Pitocin to kick the placenta out, or how did that work?
They ended up pushing. They said, okay, we need you to give us one more good push. And so then they pushed down on the belly and tugged at it a little bit. And
Yeah,
then after, they asked if it was okay if they gave me a shot of Pitocin.
yeah,
And so I that.
yeah. Just to be sure that there was no issues or yeah. Yeah, I mean, I found like even with my first birth, I feel like with all my births, with the exception maybe of my first one, like I needed kind of help and coaching to get that placenta out. It wasn't just like, oh, it's flying out. It's like I had to kind of like really focus and bear down. And like they had to do the massage of the belly. And that was actually like one of my least favorite parts of the whole thing because you're just like want to be done. And then you've got this thing you have to deal with. Okay. So did you guys end up staying in the hospital or did you go back home?
We ended up staying for 24 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. So you could just got some extra support. And was there a lactation consultant on board that could help you with the latching and
Yeah, there was.
oh, well, that's nice. That's really cool. How about was there anything you used to cope when the intensity was kind of ranking up? Like, is there something that you did that helped you get through each contraction?
I think through each contraction, I was just like, I said, like, relax to myself. And I kept telling myself out loud, like, I can do this. I can do this.
Yes.
And that was really the biggest thing for me because it was so fast. Part of me was panicking because I was like, how am I going to have this baby at home? What happens if he comes out and he's not breathing? And so all those things were really what was going through my mind because first time mom, I've never done it,
Yes.
no idea,
Yeah.
but relax and you can do this was the biggest thing.
Aw, those are great mantras to have. Stay relaxed and to remind yourself that you can do this. That's huge. And, my midwife always said, she's like, we don't worry about the fast deliveries. It's the ones that are stalled, delayed, that usually, that can have more complications. So I remember when Faith was born at home without our midwife either, because it just went so fast. We were not prepared. Because it literally felt like it went from like early labor to all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I have to throw up and poop, which was transition to I'm bearing down. And it was like 5 pushes, you know what I mean? So it just was so fast. I always remember her saying that, like, we don't worry about the fast ones. It's really the slow. So I wasn't very concerned that anything was wrong per se. It was just kind of shocking. So has childbirth changed you in any way? For a lot of moms, it's a very transformational experience. Do you think you have some lasting impact based on your experience?
Yeah, I believe that I'm capable of doing way more than I thought I could before. And
Mhm.
that I can be confident in myself because before it was like I was not super confident in everything or listening to what my body was saying. But when you're giving birth, you need to be confident in yourself that you can do it. And so if there's something that I'm like, how am I going to do this, or that I've been thinking that, I've just been like, no, I delivered a baby. I can do this and do it well.
I can do anything. Like, hey, if I've done that, I can do anything. And it's funny because my husband and I will do saunas together and they're very hot. And he's like, I can't, like, he's got to like get out at a certain point. He's like, it's too much. It's too, and I literally go into like my labor breathing. And it's like, okay, I've been through natural birth. Like, I can do a sauna. So my point is like, those skills that you learn during labor and just the intensity and be able to face it head on will serve you for the rest of your life. It's
Yeah.
really incredible. It's so transformational. Do you have any words of wisdom for a mama who maybe is nervous that she'd give birth at home alone or nervous about going into birth? Anything that you could share to encourage her?
Yeah. Definitely. I think I've been saying this the whole time, but you can do it. It doesn't matter if odds seem to be stacked against you or if your own brain is against you. You're made to do it, and it's definitely not as scary as it can seem. It's definitely not like the ones on the TV, and
Mhm.
yeah, that it all is going to work out in the end,
Mhm.
um, the best way that it should.
That's beautiful. And then finally, I'm just curious. There are 3 things I notice with moms whose births go very fast, because especially because you're a first time mom, that they tend to do the red raspberry leaf tea, they eat the dates at the end, and then they also might see a chiropractor. Did you do any or all of those things?
I half-heartedly ate the dates and did the raspberry leaf tea. I did drink a cup of the red raspberry leaf tea after the cervical exam as well. So I don't know if that kind of pushed things along as well. Um,
Mhm.
I didn't do any chiropractic stuff, but I was active the
Yes.
entire
Yeah,
out of the country. I was working, moving all of the time.
which was awesome. Yeah. And if you didn't see that, I think another clue for you is like if you were that active, you're on your feet all day and you weren't in a lot of pain or you didn't have back pain or discomfort, like that's a good sign that you were like in good alignment. So that's really helpful. Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. Well, congratulations, Marissa, on your beautiful birth. What a story. You definitely have to do home birth next time because with how fast your births go, I don't know if you unless you slept over at the hospital or like live next door to a birth center. I think that might be the best road for you. But how fun. And I'm so glad to hear that he's doing well and he's feeding well and all that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. This is going to help so many mamas and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, too.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye. Thanks so much for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe to my channel and ring that bell. Also, head on over to mamanatural.com/updates and sign up for my free pregnancy week-by-week series. Each week, you'll see what's up with baby, what's up with mama, and learn how to have your best, most natural pregnancy. Finally, check out the Mama Natural Birth Course. You've been told that childbirth is scary and something completely out of your control. But I'm here to tell you something different. You can rock your childbirth. And midwife Maura Winkler and I will teach you how. And join the thousands of women just like you who have joined my birth course and have had triumphant natural childbirths. Learn more at mamanaturalbirth.com.